Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl here with this week's Astro Weather Report, where we're going to see what's unfolding in the astral skies for us for the week of December the 4th to December the 11th, 2019. We're getting near the end of the year, can you believe it? So there's a lot going on in the sky this week. It's a very different week to what we've been experiencing energetically. For the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of blessing with Jupiter crossing the galactic center, with Jupiter and Venus making a conjunction together, bringing about manifestation of things in the material realm for us. But now we're moving into a time that's looking a little different. Jupiter has moved into the sign of Capricorn, and that's changed the tone of our joy. If you missed my video from last week, you might like to check that out because I discuss what that means for all signs with Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn for the next year. But now we're looking at what is unfolding with a special conjunction that happens annually. But it is actually one of the more difficult conjunctions, according to most astrologers. They consider this conjunction that's going to occur this week one of the most difficult to carry in the natal chart, and therefore in the transiting situation that we're going to be exploring, it is also an indicator of perhaps some challenge that lies ahead for us this week. So we're going to explore what that might mean for you. But first, the first interesting point that we're going to experience in the week ahead is actually the transit of the moon across Gandanta Pisces and Gandanta Aries points. So let me explain. Here we have the moon, and the moon takes 1 month to go all around the zodiac, and it'll go around maybe 12 to 13 times in any given year. Now here, when it crosses once a month, it will cross the last 3 degrees of Pisces and the first 3 degrees of Aries. And this is considered in ancient Vedic astrology and Jaimini astrology, this is considered a Gandanta degrees, the last 3 degrees roughly, the last 3 degrees of Pisces and the first 3 degrees of Aries. And these Gandanta degrees occur between fire and water signs. So every time the moon or a planet crosses these points, we get a certain effect, and it's a very karmic effect. It is actually correlated to what we would determine in a natal chart, having a planet at a Gandanta degree, a karmic knot within us, an area of life that we've been working on over many, many lifetimes, time and again, and we kind of get our soul knotted up with the issue that planet represents for us. Like when you put your sneakers on, you go for a jog and you tie the double bow or double knot or whatever, and then you go to get your sneakers off and it's like so intensely knotted up and you're picking at it with your fingernails trying to undo the knot. Well, that's what this Gandanta energy is like. Things have got so bound up and so tight that we really have to put some effort and energy into unraveling the knot and freeing ourselves of the karmic issue that we've been working on over and over. So once a month, the moon will cross the Pisces Aries Gandanta degrees, and this is happening for us this week. So it's not an unusual occurrence, but this week we might notice around the 6th of December, 5th to the 7th, let's say, around that time we're going to be experiencing the change that this brings in our emotional health. The moon represents our emotional well-being, what we need to be satisfied and happy in life. So we might find that during this time, as a collective, we might just wobble a little bit. Now, like I said, this happens once a month that it crosses these points, plus there are also 2 other Gandanta points, if you're talking collectively, 6 all up, 6 signs, but 3 Gandanta areas of the chart, where we can get an effect of a wobble with our emotions because of this. So it's not unusual, but I wanted to highlight this week because it's coming prior to this significant annual conjunction that I'll talk about in just a minute. The moon, when it crosses the Pisces Gandanta degrees, well, this indicates that it's ending of one cycle of something in our lives and the beginning of another. As you can see here, Pisces is the last sign in the horoscope. They know that because they always have to wait till last to get their astrological reading each week. But Pisces is the last, and then you begin a new cycle with Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. And so very symbolically, the last 3 degrees of Pisces indicate the end of one cycle, the beginning of another, in terms of karma. So it's like we are waiting for a shift to happen. Come on, I'm ready. I'm done with this old habit or this old mindset or this old emotional state, and I'm ready for the new now. Bring it on. And we're like anticipating it. It can feel like, I was going to say like Christmas morning, actually. You know, you're just dying. I grew up on a dairy farm and we had to wait for Dad to come in from the cow shed to be able to open our presents. And it's that waiting. Come on, is it here yet? I'm so ready. Let's open the presents. Let's get on with it. It feels this energy of, when's it going to happen? Come on, I'm so waiting for this. So that is what we're looking here. We're ending one cycle and feeling like I've had enough of this old way of being. I've had enough of this old mental attitude. I've had enough of this emotional state that I'm in. Might be a karmic emotional state that pops up time and time again, a repeating pattern, a repeating mindset, and we've had enough and we want to end it. So we might get that feeling now with this Pisces, end of one cycle of soul growth and the beginning of another. Keep in mind, like I said, this happens once a month, so we actually take little bite-sized chunks out of our soul issues every month as we deal with these things. Then we're going to move into the Gandanta degrees of Aries. Now, this is where the Gandanta degrees of Aries correlate to our soul recognizing that there is a past life dynamic playing out, and we realize that we're connected to we're experiencing some sort of soul karmic journey recognition here, yet we're also aware that we are on the threshold of this new experience as the moon prepares to go around the horoscope again. Now this placement for the 1.5 days roughly that the moon, even less, maybe half a day, that the moon is in the first 3 degrees of Aries, we can experience confusion in our soul. Energetic influences that can be difficult to understand. Why is this happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? How come this is playing out this way in my life? And we question and we feel like we don't understand, and the energies make no sense. It's only for a short period, but it can be that time of emotional confusion around what's going on in the circumstances that we find ourselves in life. So just a heads up on that. When the moon crosses these Gandanta degrees, there's going to be a period, 1 to 2 days, of experience of these kinds of energies. When is this going to end? And then I'm confused. Why is this happening to me? I don't understand. What have I done to deserve this? And then we move into things flowing a little easier emotionally for us. So it can result in some outer circumstances that trigger these emotions in us. But keep in mind, one of the goals of life is to learn to remain still within. Even when there's turbulent events happening outside of us, in our lives, to keep that sense of stillness and trust in the divine, in the universe, in the great cycle of life and the big plan for our soul. The more we can learn to trust and harness that stillness even in the midst of difficulty, the more we flow through these Gandanta periods with ease, and the unraveling of the karmic knot just automatically happens without having to pick at things. So keep that in mind. Try to go within, use that presence, that sense of I'm in this moment as much as you can, and won't matter what life throws at you, you will remain in calmness and stillness that will be very beneficial. That's the first thing that's unfolding for us this week. Keep an eye out for that happening. Now on December the 11th, we're going to have a very interesting day. This is the annual conjunction of Venus and Saturn that occurs. And as I said in the intro to this video, it is considered to be by astrologers one of the most difficult aspects a person can actually carry in their natal chart. And this is because through this aspect, the energies of Venus are blocked and restricted by Saturn's energy. And Venus is love. Now, if we think about why we incarnate or what our souls long for most in life, it is to love and be loved. And when that is being blocked and restricted, it causes so much pain. We're longing for love, we're longing to give love, but we feel unworthy, or we feel lame in areas of love. We feel like we stuff it up all the time, and that our efforts towards love are misunderstood or not reciprocated, and that includes our efforts towards self-love. We try to honor the self and love the self and take care of the self, but it's thwarted all the time, or we feel like it's futile, or we have trouble loving the self for whatever reason. So I'm going to explore this in a little more depth in just a minute, and we're going to look at how it might play out for us on an energetic level through this transit, for those of you who don't carry this in your natal chart. So it is going to be a challenging week because of this. And, I'm quite happy to talk about the good as well as the challenges that we find astrologically. It's important to have knowledge, because it's knowledge that gives us power to deal with things in a very mature way that helps us navigate these energies. Now, on December the 9th, it's not December the 9th, it's December the 11th, Saturn and Venus are going to be together here, let's move Venus closer, at 19 degrees of Capricorn. 19 degrees is the degree of Libra. It's important to keep that in mind. I'll write it up here. 19 degrees, the degree of Libra. So what does Libra correlate to? It correlates to relationships. So there's no coincidence that here is the planet of relationships and connecting at the degree of the sign of relationships, the degree of Libra with Saturn. So there may very well be some difficulties around relationships on this day, around this time. We're going to explore this in more depth in a minute, but I just want to give you some hope. In the middle of all this, we are creating a what we call a bisextile triangle, and it is between Mars, Neptune, and there's Mars down here. Actually, Mars has moved from there, my mistake. Mars is up here now. So it's creating a bisextile triangle between Neptune, boom, Neptune is here to the conjunction, and then from the conjunction to Mars. This is in astrology what we call a bisextile. What's a bisextile and what does it bring? Well, it's going to bring support to get us through this time. Now, as you can see, there are two planets. They are 60 degrees from the other, and they're 120 degrees from each other. So that's how a bisextile is determined in a chart. It indicates that there is going to be opportunity for support, but we have to recognize it, and we have to put the effort in to make it happen. We have to put our energy in, and we have to trust in the goodness of the universe. So there's energy required and there's trust required. That's what these planets represent. Neptune is trust, Mars is energy and action. So there's opportunities that are going to come to us at this time to work through any relational issues that might crop up, any interactions, and this can be with siblings, it can be with lovers, it can be with marriage partners, it can be with business partners, it can be with clients. Any relational issues that pop up now, we're going to have to draw on our ability to trust and our ability to use our own energy and action to get through this time in some way. It's actually a very good combination to have if you've got a bisextile triangle in your natal chart. It gives more capabilities than even a grand trine. This is because you're less likely, when this is occurring in a natal chart, and it will be the case for us all with the transit as well, we're less likely to be complacent about the things that occur in our lives. With a grand trine, we're a bit, la-di-da, whatever, I don't need to bother, I don't need to make effort, everything will just happen, it's okay. This is going to give us a bit more oomph, a bit more of a drive, a bit more desire to push forward in life. So this can be a real blessing with what's going on now. We can actually be more successful because of this. And the most important point in a bisextile triangle is the apex point, which in this case is going to be Venus and Saturn conjunction. So let's explore what a Venus-Saturn conjunction actually brings. Well, if you have this in your natal chart, as I do, you'll know, as I said, it can bring a lot of difficulties with relationships, because love and also money and self-love, these are the key themes of Venus, they are blocked by Saturn's energy of restriction. Now, fortunately, the older that we get, the more we can act in maturity with love, and the more enduring these things can become in our life. A relationship, when you've got this aspect, can actually become very long lasting and mature. And in fact, the older that we get, when we've got this in the natal chart, the more likely we are to have love opportunities and love experiences, because Saturn is age and Venus is love. So that's another thing. The older we get, the more we can experience the blessing that this actually can impart in a person's life. But it does mean an early period of life where we just feel like we just are hopeless at love, constant feelings of rejection that can really bring us down and cause us a lot of self-love issues. And it is a very challenging placement in that regard. Now, when it's moving through the skies by transit, we can, all of us, experience a day or two around this time, the 11th of December, where we have feelings of sadness, feelings of feeling a bit lonely. We can't explain why, just it feels this way, and I'm low. And even though I've got lots of friends, even though I have a lover, even though I have children around me, or whatever your circumstances are, I still feel lonely. I feel like nobody understands me. I feel, that kind of energy. And we have a feeling also at this time of isolation, because Venus rules Libra. Remember, this is also happening at the Libran degree. Libra is about connection with others. That's the whole drive of Libra. They want to connect. They want to be in partnership, in union with other people. And Saturn is blocking that feeling, that energy. So it makes you feel isolated from other people. Now, if you're a very independent soul, if you like your own time, you time and being on your own, then you might flow through this a lot easier than those of us who are very drawn and have great needs to be in union and connection and partnership. So what I'm speaking of here may not apply as strongly or as powerfully to everyone, and it all, of course, depends on what is in your natal chart as well. So expressing love on this day, around the 11th of December, depending on where you are in the world, it might fall a day before or a day after, but expressing love might be restricted. So you might go to give somebody a bunch of flowers and they'd say, oh, no, I don't really like those. I remember seeing a video years ago of some fan giving Madonna a bunch of gorgeous blue hydrangeas, and she was like, ugh. And I thought, oh my God, I love hydrangeas. So that's what we're talking about. You go to give love and it is, restricted, or it is blocked, or it is rejected in some way with this energy that's going on. So remember my words now. This is what might unfold energetically. If that happens to you, don't take it personally. It's just the energy of the universe unfolding. So, move on, so to speak. But this can be the case. Your love endeavors to show love, give love, and even in your ability to receive love can be very much restricted on this day. Financial difficulties can also be possible on and around these days as well. It's not an indicator of sudden losses, because Saturn is not a sudden planet. And this influence is only going to last a little while, only a couple of days. It happens every year. So it's not going to mean suddenly, you're going to lose it all and be living on the streets. Not at all. This is more of a oh my God, I've got this bill come in and I just don't have the money to pay for it now, and it's due tomorrow. It's that kind of a mini crisis in finances. And so, financial difficulties might bubble up to the surface on this day, but they will equally blow over as this energy lessens when Venus moves off. So just be prepared that might occur. Any wobbly relationships, and what I mean by wobbly is any relationships that are a bit fractious and are a bit teetering on the edge, might actually reach their conclusion on this day. Venus-Saturn can really cut the cords of a bond between two people, especially if it's a cord between two people that's unraveling already. So if you are in a situation like that, heads up, it could spell the end of a relationship that's due to die anyhow. Now, distance or separation can also pop up in relationships. So if you're dating someone or if you're married or something, there can be a period where you have to separate yourselves. Maybe you have to go to Brisbane for work for a couple of days, and so you're separated physically from your partner. So it can also happen that you, for some reason or another, are emotionally separated from a lover or a partner of some sort. That can also occur on this day. So there's some distance, there's some separation at an emotional or a physical level that can play out with this connection. We can, as I've also already kind of given you hints of, we can have difficulty connecting emotionally. So we're with our partner, we're out for a lovely dinner or something like that, and it just doesn't go right. And we just feel unaligned and unattuned with one another, and then I'm trying to flirt and banter with my lover and they're not getting it. They're off on some other plane, and emotionally we're at a disconnect. That can also play out with this conjunction on this day. Feelings of guilt in relationships. So if you have done the dirty on somebody or someone's done the dirty on you, just know that this is a very strong trigger for guilt bubbling up. Now, it might bubble up in them, it might bubble up in you, depends on your circumstance, but there is guilt that can come to the surface at this time. I actually see this as a very helpful thing, because when guilt bubbles to the surface in our awareness, we can deal with it. We can process it and we can release it and let it go. So don't see, if you get guilty feelings, don't squash them down during these days. Don't ignore them. Don't try and cover them up with something else and make yourself feel good by doing a kind deed for someone else. Address and look at your guilt. If you feel guilty, look at it, assess it. Why am I feeling this way? How can I, process this? What do I need to, what action, Mars is action, what action do I need to take to get rid of this guilt, to settle this guilty feeling once and for all? Maybe I need to go to someone and ask for forgiveness. Venus is forgiveness. Maybe I need to trust that the other person is actually going to have my best interest in mind, and I choose to move on and forgive them. So everybody's situation is different. I'm not saying go and trust somebody who's not worthy of being trusted, but if there's guilt, maybe you need to restore trust. Maybe you need to forgive. Maybe you need to take action. These are the planets that are going to encourage us to address any guilty feelings or scenarios with those kinds of qualities now. Venus and Saturn is extraordinarily karmic, because Saturn is the karma of past life mistakes, and therefore he puts upon us in our natal chart certain fears based on our past life experiences. And when we have Saturn, Venus in the chart natally, it's an indicator that we have had karmic fears that have popped up regarding relationship. We are afraid of relationship. We're awkward with relationship. And that's why we're restricted and difficult. We find relationship difficult when we have this in the natal chart, because there's a karma with relationship here that needs to play out. Either we've made a mistake and hurt someone else in a past life, or someone has really wounded us and destroyed us through an emotional relational connection, and now we're too scared to even enter into that situation again. Saturn, that's what Saturn brings us karmically when he's with Venus. So when we're looking at a transiting Saturn-Venus conjunction, what can be playing out is the release of karma. Maybe those old karmic wounds bubble up in us and we suddenly feel scared, and we start to self-sabotage the relationship that we've found ourselves in currently, and we start to destroy it out of fear that's coming from a past life incarnation of trauma. So watch out for that. If you start to self-sabotage a relationship, that can be a relationship with anybody, with a boss, with a client, with your lover. It doesn't matter who. If you start to self-sabotage on this day, even though you're happy with the relationship, it's going well, it's good, but suddenly you just freeze with fear about, what am I doing in this relationship? This is going to hurt me. I can't go on. Then know that this is a result of Saturn, Venus. It is karmic results from past life relationships. Maybe you're in a court case this week, and maybe getting a divorce or something like that, and this is what's playing out. Know that this is going to be a karmic, what plays out is going to be karma for the behavior that you've had in a relationship. That can be certainly the case with a Venus conjunct Saturn. So there's karmic, not rewards. Saturn is difficult karma, and so there's difficult karma to play out here, and that can bubble up now. So be brave, be strong. Mars is to be brave and strong. Trust that this process is for your highest good. Neptune is trusting, and move through this period knowing that the karma needs to play out and unravel, and resolve to make your karma good this lifetime, and invest in good relationships and give love and so forth, so that the retribution of karma will not come back to haunt you in the future. But this is especially true for, and I'll talk about this when I go through all signs, for Gemini and Aquarius rising, because this little fella here will be falling in the 12th house for Aquarius rising and the 8th house for Gemini rising. And there's a lot of connection to past life experiences in these houses, particularly the 12th house for Aquarius rising people. So just know that what you're dealing with in this coming week is a result of relational karma. But the good thing is it will play out and it will be resolved, and you can then move on and make a fresh start. Get a clean sheet of paper from the universe once the karma has played out. So be on the alert if you're a woman for domestic violence during these days. Not a nice topic to talk about. Nobody wants to go into that realm. But Saturn conjunct Venus can cause this. Fortunately, you will have the courage and strength through this kindly aspect from Mars to deal with this in an appropriate way, not a hot-headed way, not a reactive way, but in a way that is courageous and strong, essentially. So if you're in a situation, in a family environment or in a relationship where domestic violence is present, be you a male or a female, because we all know men suffer from domestic violence and abuse, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, just like women do. So if that is the case, if you're in a situation like that, take precautions on this day. Maybe it's a good day to go away for a couple, good time to go away for a couple of days and just be out of that zone. Set yourself, go visit mum, or go and, go on a short little weekend sojourn somewhere with friends, and just remove yourself from an environment that might end up in that situation. Any relationships that begin now, be very wary of, be very careful of. Not that they're going to be nasty relationships, but they're likely to carry the tones. If you start a relationship on, say, the 10th, 11th, or 12th of December, and this means you meet somebody or you go on that first date and it looks like being something of long-term significance, then it's going to carry the qualities of Venus-Saturn, and the relationship, the sexuality and the sexual expression might be somewhat restricted and thwarted. That can be a way this plays out. The relationship might be much more practical, all about hard work to achieve what would otherwise come easily in other relationships. There might be problems that need to be solved in a relationship that starts now. There can be quite significant age gaps between you and a partner. Either you're the older by a lot of years or you're the younger by a lot of years, with a relationship that starts under the influence of Saturn and Venus. And even though I have no problem, and most of us have no problem with age differences, if two people love each other, who cares? Just know that big generational gaps can cause other issues that we mightn't consider. As we get older, we're not as sexually, some of us are not as sexually active as when we're younger, and there's different qualities to what we experience and look for and desire in relationships. So big age difference, I'm talking 7, 8, 9 years differences, can bring a lot of other challenges that we might not be aware of to relationship. Doesn't mean love is not strong and powerful and life-changingly wonderful, but there might be some issues that pop up. be aware of that, and you'll be fine. So money can also be an issue now on these days, and we need to just know that, like I said, that unexpected bill can come in, or we might find that we just are struggling to have the money for the groceries on those days for some unforeseen reason. So I would encourage you, now we've got a few days up our sleeve until the 10th, 11th and 12th of December. I would just encourage you all, put aside a little bit of money if you can over the next few days. Instead of buying a coffee for the next week, put aside that $5 or whatever it costs, and you'll have a few dollars extra just to get you through maybe a dry time financially for just a couple of days. So if you can afford to do that, I would encourage you to do so. Have some savings. Actually, this is a good placement as you get older in life. If you carry this in the chart, this is an excellent combination for being able to save, because Venus is money. It's also connected to the pleasures of life and our acquisitions and possessions. And Saturn is anything old, and it's about longevity and time. And so here with this combination, as we get older, we can have a great ability to save and hoard and keep for the long term. And we can actually accumulate wealth little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit over a long period of time. It's an indicator that, no big tats lotto wins, but money can be acquired gradually over time with effort. So it can be very beneficial for the long term in that regard. So they are the general issues that we might find crop up for us in this week ahead. Let's take a look at all signs now and how the role of Venus conjunct with Saturn might be playing out in us in an individual sense. Keep in mind, as I go through all these signs, your chart is going to indicate different things. Obviously, I can't read everybody's chart in a horoscope like this, so we're talking at a very general level. Some things will therefore apply to you, some things might not be as strong or powerful for you based on the fact that your chart is going to influence things in a different way. So here we go generally with what's occurring. Okay, so for Aries rising people, this conjunction, this very karmic relational conjunction is occurring in their 10th house. So in the 10th house, this is the realm that you might feel that you're lacking love and affection and attention. Now, we don't necessarily go out seeking affection from our bosses, but we might be feeling a bit thwarted by our bosses during this time. Like we were hoping for a pay rise, Venus is money, and we were hoping for a pay rise and our boss just quashes that. It doesn't happen. No, not going to happen. You're not getting that extra money. Damn. So feeling like we are lacking the support, lacking the appreciation, lacking the, if you want to call it love, that we would otherwise long for in the workplace, the recognition, that can feel like it's lacking. We can have difficulty connecting with our bosses now, or connecting with those in authority. We might say have to come before before a judge, or before some sort of authority figure, a policeman or something like that, and we might have to come before some sort of authority figure, and we think, okay, well, I'll try and get them on side, I'll be friendly, I'll be nice, and it just doesn't work. There is no connection, there is no rapport, and we're frustrated by this. That can also be a result with this playing out in the sky on these days that I mentioned in the intro. There is guilt that might pop up. Remember, this is a signature for feeling guilty about something, and it's likely to come with an authority figure. The policeman pulls you over on the side of the road. You've been driving, way too fast, 150 kilometers when the speed zone is 110, and you feel guilty. You've been sprung, you've been caught. There's a guilt that can come here with an authority figure. Now that can, usually we don't see policemen necessarily from the 10th house, so that's probably a poor example. It's more people in highly influential positions, like a judge, like the president or the prime minister or something like that. Somebody in a very influential, powerful position. So it's people like that we might feel a complete disconnect from, and very guilty before in some regard. So it can be a boss, the CEO, it can be a manager type of a person. Now, in this realm, the 10th house, which is the realm of worldly achievements, what we accomplish, what we're known for, the legacy we want to leave the world, this is the realm that we can feel the joy is sucked out of us on this day. Venus is to have pleasure, to enjoy things, to have fun. And Saturn restricts and blocks that and holds it back. So if we have been investing in some project that's going to make us famous and going to put us out there in the world, suddenly, we just lose our luster. We lose our spark regarding that project, regarding being visible. Maybe we are very visible in the world. Maybe we're quite famous. Maybe we are actually someone of influence and power and authority ourselves, and we love what we have. We love that being a blessing, being of influence, leaving a legacy, and suddenly it loses its luster. We no longer enjoy being out there in the public realm quite as much. Keep in mind, it will only last for these short 3 days, roughly, while we have the conjunction, the annual conjunction of Saturn and Venus. So if you are Taurus rising, you're going to experience this energy falling in your 9th house. So this is the realm where you might feel that you're lacking some sort of love, affection, appreciation, or honor. And this can come from those in teaching positions over you, gurus. You might have written to somebody who you really admire, who's an inspirational figure for you, and then you get a response back and it's completely lacking in personal recognition or affirmation for the kind things you said to this person, and you just feel unappreciated, unloved by somebody in a position, say a teacher or a guru, or somebody in a position of cultural significance as well, can be seen from this sign. We can have a difficulty connecting to our teachers, to our mentors. We might get the chance to meet a mentor, someone we've admired for years. We've read all their books and we've watched them online, and we get to finally meet them and on this day, and there's just like, oh my God, it's like tumbleweed city, tumbleweeds rolling past, and there's nothing, empty, silent, there's no connection. And this is a result not because you have no energetic resonance with the person, but more a result of the energies playing out in the skies on this day. Difficulty connecting. There can be some guilt associated with this conjunction and the sign of Libra in this house. And this is the 9th house, so maybe there's some guilt around some sort of travel that you took, or some sort of involvement in a cultural activity, or maybe something that you undertook with a guru or an inspirational figure, and for some reason you feel guilty about it. Maybe, I'll just use some hypothetical example that pops into my head. Maybe you took a trip overseas, because this is a house of travel, to other cultures. Maybe you took a sly trip to Barbados and you didn't tell your partner, and you said that you had to spend the money on something else, for work or for the car or something, and you took a sneaky trip to Barbados and had a high old fun time down there doing whatever you did, and now you feel guilty for that travel that you undertook, that trip that you took, and there's a guilt there. Or maybe you gave money to some sort of mentor or guru or somebody, and you never fessed up to your wife about that missing money, and it was just a contribution that you made. You've got nothing really to be ashamed of. You're supporting someone in their work to teach and to instruct and what have you, and be that guru person. But for some reason you didn't talk about it, and now you feel guilty. I'm just using crazy examples that pop into my head, but there is an element of guilt associated with Saturn and Venus making a conjunction, and we can feel guilty about taking a pleasurable trip, or doing some sort of higher learning, or interacting with a mentor in some way. That can play out in many different scenarios. If you're Taurus rising, you can feel on these days that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, like the joy has been sucked out of you. Maybe you are keen as anything to start a new course. Maybe you're going to do a course in astrology, or you're going to study medicine, or you're going to study the law or something. And you're so excited to start, and then on these days, this is not exciting. I'm not enjoying this. This feels heavy. I'm really not liking this at all. I feel hopeless. I feel like I'm no good at this. I feel, what am I doing here? That's the kind of energy that this can give to the realm of higher learning and also to travel. You might really feel like you want to go for a trip. You've been looking forward to it for ages. You're going to explore another culture or get involved in some other belief system and go visit an ashram or something, and you go and do it and it's like, ugh, this is not what I thought it would be, and I just am not enjoying this. The joy has been sucked out of this. It's not you. Keep in mind, it is the energy of Saturn and Venus causing this to be in the ether, and you're probably tapping into that instead. So that's what we're looking at with this. Let's move to Gemini now. If you are Gemini rising, well, you're one of the signs that I mentioned a moment ago, where you are going to be dealing with a lot of karma with this. This is a house where past life regression work is really helpful. And if you were to undertake a past life regression using one on YouTube maybe, or being guided by one on YouTube, or being guided by a person who can be there to support you and hold your hand through a regression, very good idea. If you were to undertake it on this day, you might very likely see why you're having relationship problems if you're Gemini rising. Because this is a house of doing energy work, like and getting deep into the subconscious realms through hypnosis and regression work and so forth. And you can find great healing on this day, maybe from some relational karma that needs to play out. So if you have this, and if you're a Gemini rising and you are struggling with relationships, and you always have, and you can't explain why, this could be the day when you can actually activate and look at this in a very deep psychological way. So yes, it can be hard. It can be hard to face the karma of our relationships and why we are the way we are with relationships, or why we struggle. It can be really hard to face that. But if you're brave enough, and Mars will support you with being brave enough, you Gemini rising people, if you're brave enough, you can go down that road now and actually receive benefit and healing through this conjunction. Most other people there'll be some issues to struggle with on this day, but you guys in the 8th house can transform it to your blessing if you're struggling with relationship karma. Very, very karmic in the 8th house, and also very much an opportunity to do therapy and do some karmic healing. This is if you are a Gemini sun, moon, or particularly strong and ascendant, just Gemini ascendant. So when we have this conjunction occurring in the 8th house, what is going to happen generally is on these 3 days that I mentioned in the intro, you're going to feel like you're perhaps lacking love, lacking affection, lacking sex in the 8th house, that it's just not coming for you. Even if you're in a sexual partnership, so there might be something that's just blocking it or restricting it. It's just not happening. The lovemaking doesn't occur. Maybe you're both too busy, or maybe you're there's some sort of emotional block that you just can't do it, and it's just not happening for you. Not coming literally, but that can be a problem on this day. But coupled with that is a feeling of lack of intimacy, lack of connection, not just physical intimacy, but the emotional intimacy is just not there on this day. And so you feel like you're not being loved. You feel like you are not receiving the affection and appreciation that you long for, and that will play out in a physical realm through sex and intimacy. There can be difficulty connecting with a partner as well with this playing out in this sign, and that's, like I said, at an intimacy level, at an emotional level. There can be some guilt. Now in this at this degree, the degree of Libra, in this sign, in this house, the guilt can center around some sort of sexual activity that's happened. Maybe you went and had a threesome, and you feel guilty for that for whatever reason. Maybe you're living in a polygamous type relationship and one partner doesn't know about the other, and you might feel guilty for that. So it's any type of sexual activity that you might feel guilty over. It's also, not that there's anything wrong with those things. Please don't misunderstand me here. I'm not saying those things are wrong, but these are some of the things people can feel guilt about, and they can't explain why. If you're someone who's honest and open and upfront and you enjoy those sorts of things, more power to you. So no judgment on that sort of stuff. The the other thing that can play out is you might feel guilty about how you've handled other people's money. You might have made a bad choice and that's affected someone else's money, or you might have invested someone else's money into something and it hasn't gone well, and you can feel guilty over that because this is a house of other people's money. So that can play out too. There's guilt associated with Venus conjunct Saturn in the 8th house, concerned with other people's money. And also if you happen to work for a council or something and there are mutual community property, and maybe you've made a decision or a choice about some sort of communal property that has backfired and not gone well. And that can cause you some guilt too. It's not just handling one person's money. This is where we see communal property, the council-owned parks and the council-owned swimming pool and whatever. These kind of communal owned properties. So there can be some guilt associated with something to do with that. And in this realm is where you can feel like the joy is completely sucked out of you for these 3 days that I mentioned. This can be in sex. Suddenly it's just not happening and I just can't get there. Maybe it's in the realm of handling other people's money. Maybe you usually love that. Maybe you delight in that. Maybe it's good fun for you and now, I just don't like it. I'm just feeling really heavy about all this on these days. I feel lame. I feel hopeless. I feel like I'm no good in this realm. Down on yourself for handling other people's money when otherwise you might be brilliant at it. So it's something to watch out for. Other people's money, being able to receive from people as well. You might feel a sense of unworthiness, to feel like, okay, here I've received this inheritance, or I've received some kind of windfall of some sort, and I just feel so unworthy. I feel like if they really knew who I was, they would never have left me that in their will because, I'm not worthy. It's this feeling, perception, not reality, but perception of unworthiness that just permeates at this time when Saturn is conjunct Venus. That really can be very debilitating. So even when you get something wonderful, the joy's sucked out of it. The happiness is gone and it's not there in this realm. Okay, moving along. If we are Cancer rising or moon or sun, but mostly rising will be felt strongly, the strongest. If this is our rising sign, then this is falling in the 7th house, and this is the realm of life where we can feel a little bit off with relationships. So for you guys, for you Cancer rising, it's happening at the degree of Libra in the house associated with Libra and things, the 7th house, connected to partnership and relationships. And it is the planet of love and connection and relationship. That's all these things are being thwarted by the power of Saturn, restricted, blocked, held back by Saturn on this day. So what does that mean for you? What do you need a heads up about? Well, you might feel like you're lacking love and affection and appreciation from your spouse. Also from your business partners too. Not that you look for love from your business partners, or maybe you do, go you. But you might be feeling like there is just no appreciation of what I'm contributing to this business partnership. They just don't appreciate me. There is no, mutual reciprocation for the efforts that I'm putting into this. But particularly it'll be spouses. You might feel unloved. You might have a fight. There might be a lack of affection on these 3 days that I mentioned in the intro. So that can crop up. Be aware that if it does, you'll know why. Saturn's conjunct Venus today. That's why I feel this way. All right, I'm just going to get on with my job, on with my life, do my thing, knowing that it will pass in a couple of days' time. It's not a permanent situation. There can be a real difficulty connecting with spouses, with clients, with business partners during this time, or your audience. There's just no alignment. They just aren't responding. So if you're someone like me, not that I'm Cancer rising, but if you're someone like me who loads videos to YouTube, and I'll be loading a video during this time next week, and maybe there's no love and affection from your audience. Nobody views it, nobody cares, nobody watches it, and you've gone to all that effort with no appreciation, and that can feel very hurtful for Venus, Saturn in this regard. So this is your audience, this is your customers, this is your clientele, this is your committed partnerships, as well as business partnerships. This is where you can be feeling a lack of appreciation and a difficulty in making a connection, a difficulty in reaching out and being seen and being valued. There is a guilt that's also associated with Saturn-Venus conjunction. So if you have a clear conscience, yay, good on you. But if there is something that you're keeping hidden or something that you feel guilty about in the relationship, it's going to get exacerbated on this day. It might come up, might be brought out in the open, particularly as we're in fairly close proximity to Pluto here, which likes to expose the hidden things. So that can be a thing that might crop up. Any sort of hidden stuff can come out. But also there might be just, you might just feel an increased sense of guilt over something. Maybe, oh, I forgot to take the rubbish out last week and I really let her down because she was counting on me to take the rubbish out. Now I feel guilty. Could be as simple as that. Or it might be, oh, I promised him I'd drop his lunch in because he forgot it, and oh no, I didn't do it. And now he's got nothing to eat. I feel so guilty. You know, little things like that where we let our spouse down, or that can trigger guilt, or it can be big guilt. About big stuff. It depends on what your chart is showing, how strongly this will play out for you. But likely to be some little essence of guilt about some relational thing. And this is also where we might find that joy is sucked out of us in the week ahead. So we might find our relationship, which usually is blossoming and wonderful and full of care and affection and love and all this good stuff, we might find that even if those things continue, those outer things, that the joy is not there in it anymore. You're like, yes, so what? You're giving me a neck rub while we watch TV at night. Pfft, I just don't feel happy about it. This joy is gone. The joy is not there. So it's in this realm that you will feel, excuse me, that the joy has been sucked out of you regarding relationships. Know that it's going to pass. It's only roughly 3 days that the influence might be there, and then it's going to move on. So you're going to be able to leave that behind and just know, hey, I'm not going to feel too joyous about our union and our bond right now, and that's okay. So if you happen to be Leo rising or Leo sun or Leo moon, depending on what you have, but the rising sign is the most strong and powerful, you will feel it the most. If you happen to be Leo rising, this is where this energy is going to be falling. Your 6th house, 6 houses from the rising sign. This is where you're going to feel the energy of Saturn conjunct Venus. And this is where you're going to feel like there's a lack of love, a lack of affection, and a lack of appreciation for you. And this will be in your everyday workplace from your subordinates. So let's say you run a company, you've got a few employees. You're not going to feel very loved up by your employees on this day for some reason. You're going to feel fairly unappreciated by your employees. Maybe you've decided to put on a Christmas party and you've spent a lot of money for your employees, and they're like, yeah, whatever, no, I can't come. And nobody shows, and you're like, oh, I just feel so unloved. Here I am doing this kind thing and nobody appreciates it, or they take advantage of it. And so if you, not that you're a boss, but if you have some subordinates, like maybe you're a manager or something, that can be the case. Or if you are an employee, particularly if you are an employee, then you might be feeling very unloved and unappreciated by a boss or some sort of person who's higher up the ranks than you, a manager or something like that. You can feel very underappreciated by these people. There's a difficulty connecting with your co-workers, connecting with your bosses, your managers and so forth. We're not talking CEO type people, but just a difficulty connecting with people in your everyday workspace. And obviously this is a house, Leo people, this is a house connected with our open enemies, the enemies that are just have it in for us. So you might think, okay, look, we can talk through anything with some enemy at work or someone who's backstabbing you or whatever. We can talk it out. Don't try and do it on this day, because there's going to be a real difficulty connecting with anyone who is an enemy to you on this day. So if you've sort of agreed to maybe take something to court and settle it and organize it, it's going to really struggle to have a connection that's of value. If you're trying to mediate something on this day, it's not going to be easy, okay? Heads up on that. Difficulty connecting with people who are in a role as your enemy. So watch out for that. There can be a feeling of guilt too when this conjunction occurs. And for you guys on these 3 days that I mentioned in the intro, there is going to be a feeling of guilt regarding sixth house things. So this could be, for example, I haven't been to the gym in 3 months and I've been paying the gym membership the whole time. This is an area of exercise and health and well-being. And you've been paying the bill to go to the gym and you haven't been for 3 months, and there's guilt. Oh God, I really should have gone to the gym. Or it's becoming summer in Australia and you put on your bikini to go out on the beach and it's like, oh, I feel guilty what I ate all winter long, that feeling of guilt regarding your, not so much your appearance, but your physical health, your physical well-being. Guilt regarding the diet that you haven't been able to stick to. Guilt regarding maybe the way you've been treating your pets. That's also a sixth house thing. Pets are in the sixth house, and so there can be guilt in some sixth house area. Maybe you are instigating legal action with an enemy and you feel guilty for having to go down this road. So these 3 houses are the realms connected with legal matters. So for all of the people with that with this conjunction falling in the 8th, 7th and 6th house, there can be guilt regarding some court case or legal action or something that happens. So watch out for that. You might be feeling very guilty regarding your health, your well-being, your daily work, relationship with enemies, interaction with pets, that sort of thing. And you can feel like in life the joy is sucked out of this house for the duration of these 3 days. So what I mean by that is maybe you get a lot of joy out of your pet. You love your pet. Your pet's wonderful. They make your life sparkle. But on these 3 days, the joy's gone with your pet. It doesn't mean your pet's going to be hurt or harmed or abused or anything like that. But it just means your pet isn't giving you the joy that you might usually have. Maybe your pet might be feeling a little bit sick. And, they're not that sparkly, waggly-tailed little pet that you greet when you come home from the door, in the front door of an evening, and the joy is gone. They're just lying lethargically on the bed, and they're not interested in you. No joy from your pet. No joy in other areas of this realm as well, this realm of life. It could be exercise usually gives you a lot of joy and pleasure. You're not going to get joy out of it on these 3 days. It could be that the perfectionist, like when I say perfectionist, the desire you usually have to perfect yourself, to present this beautiful glamorous image that Leos are known for, to perfect you, maybe you love reading spiritual books and self-help books. Maybe you like to perfect your outer appearance and your inner soul. And this is a house of perfecting things, fixing things, making wrong things right. Maybe the joy of exploring those realms that you usually have is gone and you don't care less. I'm not reading Eckhart Tolle today. Can't be bothered. I'm not going to go to the gym and get fit today. I just have no joy for that right now. In fact, I feel guilty about it. Maybe, you like to perfect your work life, what you do to pay the bills, and you're very much a perfectionist in your everyday work life, and this conjunction happens, and the joy you get out of doing a perfect job at work, gone. You don't care less. Whatever. You just don't feel the joy anymore. So these are just some areas where you might be noticing the impact for that 3 days that I mentioned in the intro with Venus conjunct Saturn. So the next sign is Virgo. Virgo rising people, well, you guys are having the energy of Venus and Saturn fall in the 5th house. This is not an easy house, Virgo, to carry this difficult annual energy. And this is if you're Virgo rising, sun or moon, particularly the rising sign, you will feel it the most strong. And on these 3 days that I mentioned in the intro, you're going to feel like you're lacking in love and lacking in affection and appreciation, because this combination sucks that out of our life, restricts it, blocks it. And this is happening in the house of love and romance. So on these 3 days, you might feel that there is just no love in your life, no romance in your life. Your kids don't care less about you, and you just feel really isolated and alone with regard to relationships with lovers and with children. at this time. So just know this is an energetic cycle. It will pass. It's only going to last a short 3 days and then we'll be good to go again. But you will feel this energy of lack of love and appreciation at this time. There might be a difficulty connecting to your children if you're Virgo rising. Maybe your children are just quite frankly hard to reach on the phone or difficult to reach via social media for some reason. There might be a legitimate reason for that, for being unable to connect, but also maybe you're just at cross purposes, maybe misunderstanding each other, maybe just feeling really lame in your interactions with your children on this day and with your lovers as well. That can also play out. There can be some guilt that unfolds, and this might be guilt with regard to something to do with your children. Maybe, I remember when my son, he was about 7 or 8, and the teacher said to me, he's really squinting at the board, when he's in class, and he seems to be really struggling. And then we went and got him some glasses because he couldn't see properly, and we were driving along to the school bus, and my little son, who just got his new glasses, was looking out the window, and he said, "Oh my goodness, Mum, those are cows in the paddock. I always thought they were rocks." And the guilt, I thought, oh, you poor thing, you've gone through 7 or 8 years of life and not even been able to see a cow in a paddock. And I just felt so much guilt, even though it was nothing that I'd done. I just didn't know he couldn't see properly. That's what we're looking at here. Guilt over our children in some way, and guilt for an experience with our children that can bubble up in us now at this time. Guilt with a lover, and it could be something that we've done, or it might be something that's completely out of our control, but we still feel a bit guilty about it. That can pop up too. So watch out for guilt in this area. Also guilt towards ourselves. Venus is self-love, so it's in this realm that of self-expression and self-creativity that we can, which is the 5th house, our hobbies and things, that we can feel guilty towards ourselves. Maybe we had a goal to sew a little bit every week, if sewing is our hobby and our self-expression and so forth, and we had this goal that's what we wanted to do, and for some reason we weren't able to do it, and then we feel guilty that we haven't been honoring ourselves and loving ourselves by doing this process of sewing or whatever hobby is your hobby. We haven't been giving ourselves the self-love that we intended to. We can feel guilty about that. And for you guys, it's going to be a tough couple of days because the joy is going to be sucked out of this realm of life, and this realm of life is the house of joy. This is love, the house of love. It is the house of children. It is the house of creativity and creative expression. It's the house of hobbies and going out and having fun. That's where joy is going to be sucked out of things for you. So you might be booked to go to a concert on this day and you've been looking forward to it for months. You go and you're like, boring. It's just the joy's gone. It's not there for you at this time. So that's where on these 3 days that I mentioned in the intro, you're going to feel lackluster, that the joy is gone out of something that you ordinarily really do love and enjoy. So watch out for that if you're Virgo rising. Remember, knowledge is power, and when you know about something occurring, you can navigate it with greater ease. That's what I love about astrology. Libra rising, also Libra moon and Libra sun people, but rising is going to have the strongest impact if you have Libra rising. These 3 days that I spoke of in the intro are going to be the most potent for this energy, which will be the energy of Saturn and Venus in your 4th house. So this is where you're going to feel like you're lacking in love and lacking in affection and appreciation. This is going to come from your heritage, your family, your roots, your lineage, your community, where you feel like ordinarily you belong. There's a connection to community, to your country or whatever. On this day, you're going to feel like they just don't care. My country's let me down. My community's let me down. They don't love me. They don't appreciate me. There is no love there. My family, my maternal lineage, my mother's line, they're just... where are they when I need them? There's no love there. There's no affection. There's no appreciation from these people any longer. And there's that feeling of isolation from those areas of life, those people, those realms, and loneliness. That's what one thing that Saturn-Venus conjunction can bring. Can bring a difficulty connecting with these people as well. So any relationships, because it's happening at 19 degrees, that's not a 61, that's a 19 when it's up the right way. But There's a difficulty relating. This is the degree of Libra, a difficulty relating to our maternal line, our mother, our family lineage. We can have a difficulty relating to our community or our, the actions of our country, and we just feel at odds and ill at ease, no connection. We might try to, let's say we go out for coffee with mum and we've been meaning to catch up for ages, and we finally get to go out and have a coffee in our favourite coffee shop, and we're sitting there, we just got nothing to say. Tumbleweeds roll past. It's like there's just no connection, no interaction. In fact, it could even be the opposite. You leave that coffee shop experience and you feel a bit of animosity. Saturn conjunct Venus can really suck the connecting power out of our relationships. So just be aware, it's an energetic influence. It's not a permanent state of being. It's just the passing energies. Guilt. Guilt is the other thing that can bubble up from this conjunction in the 4th house. And so you might have guilt regarding some sort of family circumstance or something to do with your mother, some sort of relationship with your mother or the maternal line, your heritage, your lineage with the mother's side of the family, or the nurturing parents' side of the family if it's not the mother. You can feel guilty about something in the community, about something in the country. Let's say the country you live in makes a ridiculous law about how they're going to treat people with tendencies towards homosexuality or something, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing in this country? I feel guilty on behalf of my country for this decision that they've made. This is the house of patriotism down here. That's why I'm using that analogy. Or you might feel guilty because you've said something to your mum in the heat of the moment, or had an angry experience and you said something and then you regret it and you feel guilty. So it's in these interactions that are 4th house interactions, community, family, mother, heritage, country, that you might feel some sort of sense of guilt. Just know if guilt bubbles up in you, observe it, honor it, don't squash it down, don't ignore it. Realize that it's there, look at where it's coming from, and process it with love. Allow it to be present, and it will automatically, naturally start to dissolve in your life. Now, in this realm, for Libra rising people, this is where you can feel that the joy of life is sucked out of you a little. And this is family. So being with family can feel a little bit, and we're coming up to Christmas. There's a lot of family gatherings that happen in and around December. And you might just feel like, oh God, I can't do this. If you've got a gathering on these 3 days that I mentioned, it's going to feel a bit like heavy, like lead. The joy is not there. The fun is not there. You might ordinarily love Christmas gatherings with family, but for some reason this year you can't explain. It just feels like walking through quicksand. I just don't want to be here. That is Venus Saturn. It's not you. It's not anything that the family's done. It's Venus Saturn energy in the ether, and it's that feeling of there's no joy in this situation that usually brings me joy. So knowledge is power. When you know this, you can navigate it. If you are Scorpio rising or sun or moon, but the rising sign is going to be the most powerful. This is the realm that you're going to feel the connection of Venus and Saturn on these 3 days I mentioned in the intro. And this is the realm of the 3rd house. This is where you're going to feel things quite powerfully. And what are you going to feel? You're going to feel a lack of love, a lack of affection, and a lack of appreciation. This might be coming from maybe teachers. They don't understand. They've misunderstood you. They're not showing you the appreciation that you thought you deserved. This can be from siblings. This is a house of siblings and relatives. So it might be through relatives that you're suddenly feeling unloved for some reason. Through siblings that you feel a sense of rejection even. Like the love isn't there. It's fizzled away. Keep in mind it's only for 3 days and then it will pass. But you might feel during this time there might be an episode or something that happens where that feeling of connection with siblings and that love and affection that's usually there is gone. And you start to feel a bit lonely and a bit isolated because of that. There's a difficulty connecting with Venus-Saturn conjunction. So maybe ordinarily you and your brother are like best buddies. You love hanging out together. You love doing stuff together, and it's a really great dynamic. Well, on these days, you just feel like it's tumbleweed city. No one's got anything to say to the other. You are not making a connection at an emotional, physical, or mental level. And there's just no rapport. And you're like, what's happened to us? What's gone wrong? Just know it's the energy of Saturn and Venus. It is not you. Don't take it that you've done anything wrong or that they've done anything wrong. This can happen with siblings, and it can happen with other relatives as well, relatives in general. So if you notice anything like that happening where there's just a lack of connection and you start to think, gosh, what's happened? Just know it's the energy of Saturn and Venus sort of sucking that out at the moment. There can be a sense of guilt actually regarding this house too. Saturn-Venus conjunction can bring a lot of guilt to our relationships, and this will be relationships with our siblings and also relationships with our other relatives and also our teammates too, anyone we're in a sort of a team with. That can be a sport team or a work team kind of situation. We just have no rapport. There's no connection. We feel difficulty connecting, and we feel guilty perhaps also about something. For example, maybe you made a decision in a team environment and it didn't go quite right, and ordinarily you'd roll with the punches and think, yeah, okay, I made a bad call there, let's move on and take things forward. On these 3 days you're going to feel like, oh, I feel so guilty. Why did I do that? Look what I've done. I'm so lame. I suck. These are the kind of thought processes we have with Venus conjunct Saturn. We lack of self-love, lack of self-honoring and recognition for the soul that we are. So know that can happen with teammates, with your relatives, and with your siblings. There's a sense of guilt that can pop up. It might be for something big, it might be for something little, it might be just a fleeting sense of guilt. It depends on your individual chart, the intensity of how this will play out, whether it's something big that you feel guilty over, or whether it's just, oh, I forgot to put the milk in the fridge, and now I feel guilty kind of stuff. It can play out in a number of ways. The other thing that you're going to feel on these 3 days, if you're Scorpio rising, is a lack of joy in this realm. So this is a realm connected to studying, like learning new skills, writing, teaching, speaking, advertising, marketing, doing the social media, networking, being connected to other people. It's not going to bring you any fun. You'll be on Facebook, typing your latest status, and you publish it, and it's like, oh, why did I do that? That was stupid of me. Oh, just no joy out of that. I think I'll delete it. Boom. So there's no joy in these things that would otherwise bring us a sense of delight, sense of happiness, and even short travels are seen by the third house. So, you might have organized to go on a weekend trip away somewhere nearby, and you go, and it's like, boring. This is not fun. There's no joy. The joy is sucked out of our experiences with short travels, learning, writing, speaking, teaching, reading, and even doing a small business that we might usually be very passionate about can feel lackluster, and just that there's no fun in it anymore when we have Venus-Saturn conjunction in the third house. So if we happen to be Sagittarius rising, just know if you're Scorpio rising, it will pass. This is just a few days where we're going to have to navigate these energies. Sagittarius rising is going to put this energy in the second house. Now this can be also Sagittarius sun or Sagittarius moon, but the rising sign will be the most influential and powerful on these 3 days that I mentioned in the intro. So this is the realm that you're going to be feeling a lack of love, a lack of affection, a lack of appreciation when Saturn and Venus make a conjunction in the second house. So it's not a house that's correlated particularly with one people group, according to the astrological systems that I utilize, but it does correlate with money, pleasure, and self-love. So you might, of all the signs, might be feeling a lack of self-love during this time. The ability to see yourself through eyes of appreciation, to give yourself love, and you might ordinarily love yourself dearly and honor yourself and esteem yourself. That might come quite naturally to you ordinarily if you're Sagittarius rising. But when this occurs, there might be some blockage to you actually giving yourself love. Maybe you decided, I need to go get a massage. And on these 3 days that I spoke of in the intro, you're trying to book in for a massage, everything's booked up. There's nothing available anywhere. And you're like, oh, I'm blocked, I'm stopped, I'm restricted from showing myself the self-care, the self-love, the kindness, the pleasure that I would ordinarily seek, that I want. So there will be a feeling of blockage and restriction regarding self-love and the ability to have love, affection, and appreciation of self. It's also a time on these 3 days when you might have difficulty connecting to your true self, understanding what you truly want and what brings you pleasure and what brings you joy. It might just be that, it feels a bit misty to you right now. And again, a blockage there, a blockage of connection to what you love. This is the realm of the things we love, the house of the things that we love and that bring us pleasure, that bring us joy. And there's a blockage, a lack of being able to connect with the things we love. It might be going to an art gallery or a concert, or it might be, going shopping or something, and we can't find the time to do it, or we go and there's just a lack of connection. Maybe we go to the ballet and we're just like, this is boring, this sucks, get me out of here. There's no connection to these pleasurable experiences that you would ordinarily love and that you're undertaking. There's even a element of guilt with this placement in the second house. So you might be guilty about how you've spent your money. You might, have purchased a big fabulous fake fur coat or something like that as a Christmas present to yourself, and it's really costly and stylish from some fabulous boutique. And you get home and you just feel guilty. Oh my God, I shouldn't have spent that amount of money. Now I feel terrible. That can happen too. We feel guilty about how we've spent our money, where we've spent our money, on what things we've spent our money. That's an area where we can feel a lot of guilt with this placement or this conjunction that's occurring this week. And it's in this realm that we can feel like joy is most sucked out of our lives. So it kind of correlates to the guilt thing. We go shopping for Christmas, going to buy presents for friends and family, and we love doing that because we're a real giver, we're real generous, and we're happy and upbeat because we're Sagittarius. We go to do that, nothing, no joy. This is actually really depressing. Oh, and you go into that heavy judgmental zone with all this. Saturn is very judgy, and when it's with Venus, you're going to be like, oh, look at the materialism. Oh, people spending all their money on this Christmas stuff, and you go into that really Christmas judgy tone, judgy thing, which isn't you at all. You're not naturally like that. You're Sagittarius. You're upbeat. You're buoyant. You're optimistic, but it's in spending money and enjoying pleasure, finding delight in food and concerts and clothes and nice things. The joy's gone. It's not there for you because Saturn, Venus will block it, will restrict it. Just know it's only going to be for those 3 days. And then you can get stuck into all the Christmas shopping you like and get the pleasure and joy out of it that you might otherwise have. So watch out for the joy being sucked out. Now, if you are Capricorn rising, well, obviously this energy is falling in your first house if you are a Capi rising person, but also it's going to apply if you're a sun or moon Capricorn as well. However, the rising sign is the most important. You'll feel it most strongly. For Capricorn people, this energy that I spoke of in the intro for 3 days is going to play out in your first house, and it's the energy of Saturn conjunct with Venus. What it's going to bring is a feeling like you're lacking in love. Like your whole life journey, no one loves me, I feel no affection, no one is there for me, I am not appreciated, and you have the tendency during Saturn-Venus conjunction in your sign to go into the poor me kind of thing. I am lame, I am hopeless, nobody loves me, I have no support, people judge me all the time, and you feel this low isolation and loneliness as part of your journey for the 3 days when Saturn, or thereabouts, it's really 1 day but can be felt on either side as well. You feel that feeling of isolation and loneliness in your journey. So there can also be a difficulty connecting, and this is actually a difficulty connecting to the self, connecting and understanding what it is you really want. So I remember as a kid feeling bored, and I'd go and ask my mum, what can I do? I feel so bored. And mum would give me a list a mile long of different things I could do, and nothing satisfied. Nothing felt right. No, I don't want to go play Legos. No, I'm not going for a bike ride. No, I don't want to go and cook some brownies, nothing satisfied. And it was a disconnection from myself. Very much like the nature of this energy that will be playing out. A lack of connection to who you are and what you really want on these 3 days. So you might feel that lackluster, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want, kind of energy, lack of connection. There can also be guilt. Guilt comes from Venus-Saturn conjunction, and it's falling in the house of self for you. So guilt over something about your life journey. Maybe you feel guilty about what you've had to do to survive and thrive in life. Maybe very Aries-like, which is connected to the first house type energy. Maybe you've had to stand on a few people to get where you need to go in life, and now you're feeling guilty about that. Guilty for the steps you've taken on this particular life journey to survive, to thrive, which we see from the first house. So there can be guilt there. There can be guilt over something about your body. Now, this isn't the house, it's connected to your body, but it's not about the health and well-being of our body. So you might feel guilty about, I haven't taken care of myself as I should have, and now my appearance is dreadful. So, let's say you haven't exercised all winter long, and now you've put on a few kilos, you're tubby, you put on your bikini to go to the beach, and you actually look at yourself in the mirror and feel guilty, not about your health and well-being, but you feel guilty about your appearance. This is the difference. Those who had this signature falling in the 6th house will have felt guilty about not being fit and healthy like they would have liked to be. For you guys, for Capricorn rising, if we can feel guilt about our appearance, the way we look. Oh, I haven't dyed my fringe lately, and now all the grey hairs are coming through. Oh, I feel so guilty about the way I don't look after my appearance. Guilty for, not having bought yourself a new Christmas jumper so that you look good in your Christmas photos or something. It's very much a guilt connected to your image, how you present to the world, how the world perceives you, and your body and how it looks. So there can be guilt in some of those realms as well. And it's in the first house that the joy can be somewhat sucked out of you. And you can feel a sense of lacklusterness, because Saturn conjunct Venus is connected to joy, and Saturn goes, thanks very much, I'll take that joy, I'll restrict it, I'll block it. And so it's in this realm of self that you can feel a lack of joy. Ordinarily you might delight in what you look like when you look in the mirror. You look at yourself and think, oh, my hair's really nice, or I love how I look today. Today, on these few days, you look in the mirror and it's just like, oh, God damn it. Why does nothing fit me anymore? I look terrible. My skin's awful. And, we can get those times, especially when we're women, we go down the rabbit hole of, I don't love myself. I'm not happy with how I look. And, I'm fatter than I want to be. And that lack of joy in the self. And that's really debilitating. So watch out, you guys, on these days. Don't go down that rabbit hole if you can manage it. Knowledge is power. When you know that there might be a feeling, a lacking of joy in the self, a lack of joy in your appearance, a lack of joy in how you look, then just say, Saturn, Venus, I'm not going down this rabbit hole. I know it's just the energy that's in the ether right now. I'm going to move on and go do something else. Not going to go down that rabbit hole of self-loathing. Okay? Capricorn people, you can actually, are a little bit prone on occasion to, being very hard on yourself. So watch out on these 3 days when the joy of self is being sucked out of you, to have the knowledge that it's just a cycle and it will pass, it will end, everything's going to be okay. Don't waste your energy going down that rabbit hole of self-loathing. Okay, getting near the end now. We've got Aquarius rising. You beautiful people, you are, as I spoke in the intro, if you're Aquarius rising, but also to a lesser extent, Sun and Moon Aquarius as well. Aquarius rising is going to be the strongest influence of this energy. As I spoke in the intro, these 3 days are going to bring out very karmic energy of relationships for you, more than any other sign. the karma that is going to unfold on these days is going to be the difficult karma for mistakes you've made in past lifetimes, or maybe even in this lifetime, regarding relationships. It's where we reap what we sow relationally. So if you've made mistakes in past lives and you haven't, let's say, paid your karmic debt, this is a day when it might actually start to unfold for you. Saturn conjunct Venus, 11th of December for Aquarius Rising people. So I want you to know that if things relationally start to unravel and you feel, you might sense that there's karma, or you might be paying out some sort of karmic debt in relationships, or even dealing with old attitudes, old beliefs around relationship that aren't serving you anymore. If that pops up for you, know that it's the energy of Saturn and Venus playing out, resolving, ending the karmic debt that is owed regarding some sort of heavy energy, some mistake. Okay, you guys, we talked last week about, or 2 weeks ago, about Jupiter-Venus conjunction and how beneficial. Jupiter conjunction with the galactic center. That's the video that I talked about this in, and we talked about how that was a good karmic energy that was coming into play for the good things we've done. Now with this conjunction, we're looking at the Saturn karmic energy, and Saturn's always heavy karma, our fears that are a result of past life experiences, in this case with relationships. Venus is the planet of relationships. Here they are connecting. So I'm going into a long-winded explanation here. Saturn-Venus conjunction will bring the resolution of some sort of past life karma with relationships. You're also going to feel like you're lacking in love, lacking in affection and appreciation, maybe from some karmic experience or karmically associated person. You might know this is the case, but you might be feeling a lack of love from someone, and that is a karmic energy in your life. But also, you're going to be feeling more isolated, more lonely, more on your own on this day, because this is happening in a house associated with loneliness, associated with isolation, and this is an energy that Saturn-Venus conjunction brings. Nobody loves me. Nobody's got my back. Where is the love? Where is the support? Where is the affection in my life? It's coming from nowhere. I'm so lonely. I'm so isolated. So my love to you, darling Aquarius people, know that this is simply a 3-day experience. Knowledge is power. If you know that it's the energy of Saturn, Venus, and you know it's going to pass and you're going to move out the other side, things will be resolved, things will be ended, the karmic stuff will be, cut, then you can ride through it. It's when we feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel that it is destructive to our soul. You guys, there is light, and it's only a little window that this is going to play out in. And then, you're not going to deal with this any longer. In fact, I'm not 100% sure. I can't recall if next year's conjunction of Saturn and Venus, it's actually going to occur in your first house, not your 12th. I have a feeling that it's occurring in your first house, but I would need to verify that. However, this could be the last time in 30 years that you have this karmic energy play out. It is cutting it once and for all. Karmic energy with relationships. And you won't have to deal with that sort of stuff for another 30 years. So rejoice, be glad, be happy that it's ending now with this. Even if it feels painful, there is purpose to this. It's going to set you free from your karma in the long term. I've talked enough about that. It's going to be difficult to make connections with people during this time. You're going to feel, like I said, isolated, a bit out on your own. Even the people who, ordinarily love and care about you, have got your back, then you're going to feel like they don't really understand what you're going through. Just know that that's just the energy. It's not that they don't love you. It's not that they don't care about you. It's not that they're not there for you. It's simply the energy of Saturn Venus is making you feel and perceive this to be the case, that they don't get it, that they don't love you. That's a perception. It's not necessarily the truth. That difficulty connecting. There can be guilt. I want you to observe any guilty feelings, Aquarius rising people, that bubble up in you. anything that you feel guilty about, observe it. Where's it coming from? Why am I feeling that? What's the attitude behind this guilt that I'm feeling? For you guys particularly, it may very well be this karmic thing. Or you might feel guilt about booking a holiday. Could be as simple as that. This is the house of getting away from it all, having an escape. It's a really good time to do that, by the way. Go do it if you've got the means. Get away for that 3-day period when Saturn conjuncts Venus. But there can be guilt around booking a holiday, having an escape, getting away from it all, going to a day spa, going to the ashram. You can feel guilty. I should be contributing. I should be making effort in the world. Why am I, I'm feeling bad. Why am I not giving the opportunity to contribute and make effort? And no. This energy for you guys, it's playing out in the 12th house. It's all about escaping right now and retreating and having time out to focus on the soul. So you might be feeling guilty. Acknowledge it. There it sits. There's my guilt. I see what it is. I see what it's all about. I accept it. And then move on. Don't try and squash it down. Don't try and ignore it. Don't try to deny it. Allow the guilt and it will gradually just dissolve of its own accord. Okay? Now, this is the realm where joy can feel a bit sucked out of your life. If you have been planning a holiday, if you've been doing some sort of therapeutic healing, if you've been even investing in your own creative endeavors, like painting, writing music, poetry, these sorts of things we see from the 12th house. Getting invested in your spiritual life, going and meditating at the stupa or whatever. If these are the activities that you've been undertaking lately that are 12th house activities, suddenly when we have this conjunction on these 3 days, these activities, connecting to spirit, connecting to healing, taking a holiday, taking a break, they're not going to cut it. You're going to feel like, I can't do this anymore. This is so futile. There's no joy in this. I feel this is empty. This is hollow. Heads up, it's the passing energy of Saturn conjunct Venus, which is going to suck the joy out of 12th house endeavors. It's only a brief passing cycle of 3 days and then you're free. You'll be back to normal again. But heads up, you might feel that there's no happiness there. There's no joy in those things that you usually loved. Okay, so that's for Aquarius rising people. Again, the main remedy with all this is to know that it's going to pass and accept it as it is right now. That's the big solution with any Saturn energies. Acceptance is key. And for Pisces, beautiful, patient Pisces, thank you for sticking around. For you guys, this energy is falling in your 11th house. And the 11th house is where you might be feeling underappreciated, underloved, undervalued. And of course, 11th house correlates to friendships. You might be feeling neglected by your friends on these 3 days. And now this is if you're Pisces rising, Pisces sun or moon as well, to a lesser extent. But Pisces rising will have the strongest, most noticeable influence. And on these 3 days that I spoke of in the intro, you will feel like a lack of appreciation from your friends, lack of love from your friends. Where are they when I need them? Why are they not here for me? And I must be a lame friend because nobody wants to be my friend. Boo-hoo. We can really go into that poor me zone if we allow ourselves to, with Saturn conjunct Venus in the 11th house. So heads up on that. Be aware. Also, Saturn conjunct Venus can give us the disability of connection. We're not able to connect, and also in my case not able to form sentences, but we can have this struggle to connect with people, with our friends and big social groups and networks. We try, but nothing. Tumbleweed city, and it feels awkward and it feels difficult. We go to a party, we're hanging out, Christmas party or something, and we're chatting to our friends, and you say something and crack a joke and the tumbleweeds roll past and it's lame. The crickets start chirping and you just think, gosh, I'm so lame. Why would anyone be my friend? We have this inability to connect. There's a disconnect with Saturn and Venus with our friends. We can also feel guilty with Saturn Venus conjunction, and in the 11th house, this guilt, it's coming from guilt over how we have perhaps treated our friends. We might feel guilty about that. Maybe we forgot to buy someone a Christmas card or didn't get them a present, and now they've gone and bought me a Tiffany ring, and I got them nothing. I feel so guilty. bad example, but who gets a Tiffany ring from their friends? But you know what I mean? Like, there's a guilt there about our friends and something we've done in our friendship circles, or in guilt over something we've said in a big social group. We just feel a bit guilty. Other times when Venus is conjunct Saturn, we might think, whatever, don't care. It's cool. I'm not going to get hung up on the fact that I didn't buy my friend a Christmas card. Then Saturn conjuncts Venus, and we're like, face palm. I'm guilty. I feel so bad. So no, this is a passing energy, Pisces people. There's a 3-day window here where you might be feeling that energy, and then it's going to fly on by. With Saturn Venus, it's also an indicator of where joy can be sucked out of our life, where we get too serious, where we're focused on the hard work instead of the fun. And so this is a realm where you can be focused on, too much seriousness, too much seriousness with friends, not enough joy. And, you go hang out at the party and it just feels like, bored, I don't like this, I want to go home, when ordinarily you'd love hanging out with your friends at the party, but there's no joy now. The joy is gone with friends, with social groups. Perhaps the joy might even be sucked out of your aspirations and your dreams. This is a house of aspirations, dreams and goals. And maybe you've had a vision to create some new project or do some big, wonderful thing, wonderful endeavor. And you've got this gorgeous goal and you've been working towards it. It gives you lots of joy, lots of delight. And then on these 3 days, Venus conjunct Saturn, boom. I'm really sick of this. I don't think I want to do this anymore. It's not fun. You go into that zone of no joy. I want to tell you, don't give up and don't throw your project out the window. Don't throw your dreams and goals out the window, because it's a passing thing. It's going to end. It's a 3-day thing where you're just going to be a bit fatigued with it, a bit over it, a bit joyless about your goals and dreams and ambitions, but it will come back to you when Venus and Saturn are no longer conjunct. So hang in there. Don't give up on your friendships. Don't give up on your dreams and goals, because it's just going to lack joy for a little while. Just go and put your feet up and have a break. Go and have a sleep, Pisces. We love to do that. Or, not ignore it, but just go and do something else instead of being dragged down with the joylessness that this can bring to this realm of your chart. So that's what I'm seeing playing out for all signs in the week ahead. It's going to be interesting, as we can see through the last week. Sometimes we have weeks of joy and promise and blessing. Sometimes we have weeks where there's some challenges. But that is the nature of human existence on planet Earth in the third dimensional reality. And this is where knowledge is powerful. Knowing that this, what it means, knowing what's coming up, we can recognize it and we can roll with the punches more because we're aware. And that's one of the many reasons why I absolutely love astrology. So thanks for joining me for this video. Let's close with a prayer. Universal energy of love, we ask for your support to surround us, to envelop us this week as we deal with the challenge of Saturn conjunct Venus. Help us to be wise and to know and be aware and accepting of what unfolds, knowing that it's ultimately, no doubt, for our greater good. Help us to navigate these energies with wisdom and kindness and as much love as we can find, so that we can receive the blessing out the other side. And so it is. Thanks for joining me. I'll have another Astro Weather Report for you next week.